I'm Polly Warren and welcome to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. This is the place for some positive inspiration to help you through the rollercoaster ride of perimenopause. I truly believe that with the right support, knowledge and wellness tools, you can feel your best yet, because I'm learning this life phase can be a truly exciting and often pivotal time of life. With every episode, my mission is to support and empower you to own your menopause, because it's time to start taking care of the most important person, and yes, that's you. So thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. Now let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the podcast with me, your host, Polly Warren. Well, what a week it's been. So we celebrated World Menopause Day this week. I did a special episode of the podcast on that day, so it's shorter than normal, but if you haven't had a listen to that, you can always go back and have a listen. I also travelled to London this week to go to a rally which was being held outside the Houses of Parliament to really raise awareness of menopause and make a noise to say that women need better healthcare and better treatment through menopause. And it was just really brilliant and inspirational, really, to meet so many other women who have stories very similar to mine, who have suffered through their perimenopause or menopause journey, yet have now found their sort of inner power to go and shout about it and try and get change. And there were quite a few famous people there as well. So I just came away really inspired to keep doing what I'm doing because it is so needed. We were all given a book by the Menopause Mandate people who organised the event, which just is full of stories of people who have had really very, very difficult experiences due to menopause of some sort. So yeah, we just need to keep talking about it. We need to keep raising awareness of it because no woman needs to suffer through it. I also just want to say a very big thank you to those of you who have signed up to my free workshop. Depending on when you're listening to this, you might have missed it, but it's happening on Thursday the 20th. So if you haven't signed up already, there is still time to do so. It's called How to Reduce or Eliminate Your Menopause Symptoms with or without HRT. And I will put the link in the show notes. It's pollywarren.com/workshop. And I can't believe 103 people have signed up already. So that's very exciting. Okay, so on to this week's episode. This week, I speak to Mary Doube. Now, Mary has an inspirational story which has taken her from a place of being very unwell and very broken to becoming super strong. I mean, she can lift a keg above her head and she has such a zest for life. She's a civil engineer by trade, but her own personal transformation led her to become a CrossFit coach and mentor and to create her business Strong Formula. She now helps other women take control of their life, particularly during menopause, and to become the best, strongest versions of themselves. I absolutely love chatting to Mary. She's got so much to offer. So without further ado, please welcome the incredible Mary Doube. Mary, thank you so much for joining me all the way from Australia. We've finally worked out the time zones.
I know.
So it's lovely to be speaking to you for me this morning.
And lovely for me to be here. I can't believe I'm all the way in upside down land here in Australia, and I feel like you're in the next room.
I know, it's the magic of the internet. It is amazing, isn't it?
I know.
So Mary, when I came across you through one of the Facebook groups which we are in, and I got a little glimpse of your story, I just was inspired immediately, and I thought I've got to get you on the podcast because your story is one which is really very inspirational. And I know you've come such a long way. So I think a really great place to start would be if you could just tell us how you've got to where you are today and doing what you're doing.
Of course. And, you know, I sometimes say to people, do you want the express version or do you want the version where, you know, it's the wine and the tears because, you know, it's obviously been a long, hard journey, but here I am telling a story and helping other women do the same. So I was an engineer, funnily enough. I'm now a qualified fitness professional, a CrossFit coach, a weightlifting coach. So, I've come so far and, I've taken many turns in life, but I was just a young, bright engineer who was living life to the max and, always fit and, dancing was my thing. So as a young adult, I was a keen dancer, an elite dancer, and, always was very, proactive and healthy and always looked after myself in that sense. I, as we do, went through life and got married and, the challenges that come with that and the children. So, child one arrived, Eleni, who's now 18, I should say. And, you fall down on the priority of you. So you kind of takes a step back. But, I bounced back after, my first child, physically and emotionally. So I was dealing with a toddler. Of course, child number two, I got married. I was living, running a business as an engineer. And then, I didn't bounce back as much as easy, having two that are 2 years apart. Suddenly mum got sick. And that threw a curveball in life. She was my best friend. So I was managing a business, 2 children, and a sick mum, really. And, me as a priority, went from, the third rung to sort of almost nowhere. So I kind of used food. I became sedentary. So I used to love to go for walks or do a dance class. There was no time for me, really. And, dealing with mum who was sick, and she battled cancer, it was a very long journey. So it was like she was in remission. And I'm a kind of person that suffers with it. When I say a kind of person that suffers with anxiety, when I get stressed, you might have a headache or suffer gut issues. I'm someone that deals with anxiety. So, low grade. I start to get a bit panicky. And then number 3 came along, child number 3. So by this time, I think I was, and I don't know if you're talking kilos, but I was about, 130 kilos, and I'm normally about 80, 85. So I was eating, alcohol played a big part in my life at the time. So it was like a coping mechanism. So I was drinking, I reckon, a lot every day, just wine. Wine o'clock became from 6 p.m. to slowly 5 p.m. to slowly 3 p.m. just to cope. So I was using alcohol and food, and it was just that whole vicious cycle of guilt, self-hatred. Tomorrow's a new day. I'd try and start with a fresh outlook, but then, by lunchtime, the kids, business, mum, she passed away. So it was very hard. And then my anxiety just overtook. So it became debilitating and very serious. So I was medicated. And then, with my mood and my anxiety and the children, my marriage, it affected my marriage. So that kind of went like this. My health was, my back was sore. I could hardly get out of bed some days. And I have to say, there were days I couldn't leave the house. And I get emotional talking about it because it's not often I go there, but when I go there, it helps so many women. Mm-hmm. So I do. And it was a very, something I never spoke about for a long time. So I'm still I still get teary talking about it. But there was a call it a hit rock bottom, a mental breakdown. There's so many terms people use where I just didn't want to live that life. And I think if I didn't have my three girls, and I remember a specific day where it was so dark, Polly, and I just went, and there were a couple of triggers. So one was being with a friend who, I was in my zone, my darkness, and I was watching her, and she was quite agile. So she's quite like a small built kind of person who's quite agile. And I was just watching her. I was sitting at her kitchen table, just watching her agility. And I just wished for that because I was so heavy. I was dragging myself around, but I was super strong and no one knew. So no one knew I was suffering. So, I'd sit there with a great big smile, and even people in my before and after shot say, but you look so confident in that bikini and you look so happy. Well, I wasn't.
Yeah.
But that first thing was that trigger of looking at my girlfriends so agile, and I really craved to have a body that I remember. It was the one that used to, race up to the shops or bend down really quickly. And then the second thing was a moment where, and it sounds crazy, but I was in bed and I had this incredible visualization of me, the woman that I wanted to be. So it was in that breakdown moment, but it was just a moment of seeing that woman and seeing Mary, seeing her hair. I could smell her perfume. I could see her shoes. I could see her outfit. It was the woman that I could say I used to be, but a new version of me. And I woke up, I literally fell out of bed and I just bawled my eyes out. And I looked in the mirror and I wrote down the date. And I've still got the date. And I promised that woman in the mirror that I would bring her back. And that was it. And that was when the mission started.
Oh my God, I just got complete shivers when you said that, because that's so powerful, isn't it? You just kind of
powerful.
You saw what you wanted to be, and well, we're going to go on to that. You've done that. Can I just ask, Mary, at this, and thank you so much for sharing, because I can see that it's how painful it was at that time, and it sounds it. Do you think, I mean, obviously there was a catalyst of different events which led you to kind of feeling in the way that you did. How was that presumably in your sort of 30s that was all going on? A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
That was my late 30s, early 40s. So I'm 49, turning 50 now. So you can...
Yeah. Okay, so gosh, I can really relate because you're the same age as me and your children are of a similar age to mine. Yeah. So do you think that part of the mix of all of that was your hormonal changes? It was the beginning of perimenopause. You were depleted because of those 3 children. You were nutritionally depleted because you had those children. Your stress levels were through the roof. You had all those 3 core reasons that we suffer so much during perimenopause. Some of us, not everybody. I don't want to say that everyone does, because not everybody does.
That's right.
But yeah, exactly. So you said you had no time for me, and that is when it's those cortisol levels, isn't it? Would have been absolutely through the roof. You weren't giving yourself a chance to even, as you said, even go for a walk.
You can't. You don't self-prioritize. And that's the biggest lesson that I teach now,
Yeah,
so we'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing which, really stood out is when you're not prioritizing, you need something. So you look for other ways of doing it. And for you, obviously, it was the food and the alcohol. And it's not, it's definitely not an enhancer. It's definitely sounds like it's a number. Gosh, I've been there as well. you do have a choice, but at the time you can't see it, which is why often it's, it's only when you have the awareness that actually the choice at the time obviously was food and alcohol, but actually there's a different pathway you can take, which is obviously what you went on to do. So tell me what happened next. So you saw this vision, and how amazing that vision came to you. Yep. When it did. And do you know why that happened?
I don't know, but I just craved change. I didn't want to be the person that I was. So I don't know how it happened, but I think it was a mix of seeing my girlfriend's agility and remembering what it felt like to be in a very healthy body, and then just seeing her. And it was so powerful. I saw her shoes, I saw her hair, the way she moved, and I was like, that's who I want to be. I want to be her again. So that was it. It was that powerful moment, lots and lots of tears. But I say like a tiger, like the narrowing of the pupils, like my determination became fierce. Like I was unstoppable. And part of that was walking into a gym and touching barbells and dumbbells for the first time.
Was that the first time ever? First time ever?
Ever.
Okay.
Ever. So I decided that I would walk into a gym that was called a CrossFit gym. So it's basically using, it's a mix of gymnastics and weightlifting and obviously cardio. Let's just call it cardio. But it was a gym that I used to drive past all the time, and it looked scary. And I was like, oh, geez, what are they doing in there? I used to see weights being thrown around. But anyway, one day I promised myself that I'd walk through the door, and I did. So one day I walked in and it changed my life forever. And I think it was the principle of weightlifting. So I just fell in love with the movements. So they do Olympic weightlifting, which is very different to like a regular, if you walk in, what's a regular gym that you have, where you just go in and do isolated movements?
Yeah.
But it was very different. And the community, a community of healthy people, like-minded people. And it was those two things. So it was so effective, this form of exercise, that I committed to no alcohol for a year. So I made that decision. So no alcohol, and then clean eating. So clean eating combined with resistance training, that feeling, Polly, every time I used to walk out of there, and then I grab 2 dumbbells for times when I couldn't get in there and I do things at home. That feeling of strong, I still am completely addicted to it. I am addicted to strong, and hence why I've called my new business Strong Formula.
Yeah.
But it was so effective in changing my body. And I used to be someone that, Polly, I've done every diet you can think of. The soup diet, the banana diet, the keto, I've done it all, particularly keto, where I would lose, 30 kilos. Sorry, I'm talking kilos, but 30 kilos in in 12 weeks and run for hours. That was the solution. And then, I'd fall off the wagon and it would just all pile back on.
Yeah.
So it was not sustainable. So this taught me a new method of, eating a certain way, learning about macros, learning about how to sustain muscle and lose fat at the same time, and then just the enjoyment out of weightlifting. So the more that I saw results, the fiercer I got, and it became almost like a social experiment, because people around you start to feel a bit uncomfortable when you've decided to value you. So I'm at parties, standing there with a soda water, just minding my own business, having a great old time. And suddenly my peers and my friends are feeling really uncomfortable because I'm looking great. I'm I've reversed the clock after a year. If you look at a photo of me at 43 and a photo of me at 50 nearly, I look, and I don't say that honestly, Polly, I don't say it like in an egotistical way, but my skin looks great. My hair, I've improved. And people started to feel uncomfortable. So the more that, the more attention I got, the fiercer I became. And then I became, like I was doing things that I was climbing ropes. I was throwing kegs around. I still do that, of course, and much more. But I was just gobsmacked at what the body can do, and how a, then 43-year-old could do all those things when 6 months ago I couldn't get out of bed. So it was that journey that I became fiercer, and then I decided that I wanted to teach other women to do that. So I used my pain and I turned it into passion, and I wrote everything down. So my sleep improved suddenly, my hormones, my mood stabilized. I was feeling hot. Were they hot flushes? I don't know. That dissipated. So all those perimenopausal symptoms eased. And I still live and breathe those things that I'll tell you about in a minute. But it was that. So the better I felt, the fiercer I became. But then I decided to become a CrossFit coach, and I started teaching at the gym that I sort of recreated myself. And of course, like you, I was attracting 40 plus, women 40 plus. So, women were filling my classes and enjoying, this new way of moving using weights. And I tried to make it holistic, because I believe you can't be moving and not eating well, or not sleeping well, or not breathing well, or not have a healthy mind. For me, it's 5 pillars of health. So I started preaching these, and one of my before and afters went viral. And a woman I think it was Norway, said, "Mary, I want to do your program." And I said, "Well, I'm in Sydney. I'm in Down Under. Like, I'm in the upside down world. You can't." So that was the moment in time when I decided that I would create something that a woman could do anywhere in the world. So I pulled all my notes about sleep and my notes about movement and, my nutrition notes, and I created Strong Formula. And that was 2 years ago. And I started it as quite a little clunky, program through Facebook. But, with technology and, it grew, and my Insta grew, and, all the things that I talk about, being a strong woman at nearly 50 and trying to empower women, just grew, that whole presence. And then a year ago, I decided again, because being an engineer, you're just kind of always pushing those boundaries of technology, that I would create an app version of Strong Formula. And here I am. It's been 2 months since the launch, and I've created a non-hormonal method of treating menopause symptoms through a 6-week course that you go on via app. And I basically drip feed you back to health using my strong workouts, using food, using sleep. And Polly, after, 2 years of running this, women are coming out smiling, more confidence. I say that I bring a woman strong back.
Oh, I love it. I mean, honestly, it's just so good. It's so good. What a story.
I'm so excited.
I mean, that's just so brilliant. What I'm interested to know, so I've just kind of literally there's so many things I want to ask you. So what was amazing? So I'm just trying to think of somebody who might be listening to this, who is where you were, before you walked into that gym for the first time, and they want, they want things to change. And what was it? And I know it must be quite difficult, but what was it that made you walk into that gym? Because that must have been so damn scary and would have required so much courage to do.
So scary.
And it's like when we do anything new, it's really scary. And gyms can be scary places, particularly if you're not feeling in good shape. So what could someone do listening? How can they get to a place where they just think, right, I'm sod it, I'm doing it, I'm going in, and I'm going to do this for me?
And I have to say, a tagline of just walk through the door, I know it sounds so simple, but you've got to find your community and you've got to just walk through the door and just put yourself in a place of discomfort to grow. Yeah. That's the only thing. And I swear I do this every day, Polly, with my business, with my new business. It terrifies me at some times. I'm like, what am I doing? When there's a workout and I've chosen to lift 100 kilos 10 times, do 50 reps at 100 kilos. It's that unknown, that fear that you just need to embrace.
It's so true. I went to a gym, which is actually very, very close to me, and I don't go there anymore, but I went there for probably 2 years, and it was run by Sergey, this amazing Latvian. He was an ex weightlifter. And he coached the British team actually, but he had this gym. It was like only 8 people would go in there. So it was a very, very small space. And I remember the first time I went in there, I was absolutely terrified, thinking that everyone was, not going to be like me. But it's like anything. I did it. I went and had an induction, and then I would go my time was every morning at 6 a.m. And because that was the time I could fit it in with the kids and blah, blah, blah. But you build your own little community. You get to know the people who go at that time, and after a while, you're one of that community, and it's so nice. And you meet people from all walks of life, and I've noticed that now. Now I go to a different gym, which is strength. It's kind of a bit of everything. And again, it's the community, which is what I absolutely love. But the first times you go, it does feel uncomfortable, but it's about getting through that, knowing that it's going to be discomfort, you're going to have a level of discomfort, but getting through it. And it's like life. It's like anything. It's kind of the more we can put ourselves into those uncomfortable situations, the more resilient we become. And then it becomes, and then you say, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't do this before. You look back and go, oh, it wasn't so bad. I got through it.
Well, now what I do is I've created, a 6-week strength program built within the app. So I know that gyms are not for everyone. So, unlike you or me, or now I'm so busy, I can't get there as often, and we are busy. So that's why I've made it accessible for the busy woman. The app just, so many women are using it. So many women are using it in different ways. So, I've got a lady who swims. She's a passionate swimmer, but she needs to get stronger. She hasn't got the time to go to a gym, but she uses Strong Formula to, build strength when she can, when it suits her. And that's the thing. So if you're not a gym person, you grab the app, you do the Strong program, you do it at home with 2 dumbbells and a skipping rope, and it can complement a runner, a walker, a swimmer, or just a busy woman, or if you're just not into gyms. So you can walk in, there's a community built into my app as well, which is great. But I think it's those important things, the community and just putting yourself out there.
Exactly.
And trying something new.
And let's just talk a little bit about why weight training is so, so important. And particularly if you're choose to go through your menopause naturally without hormones, it is more important than ever because of the risks we have of osteoporosis. And maybe, Mary, you could just remind everybody why it is super important for us to keep our bones strong and, do this resistance and weight training.
Okay, so I call myself the bone warrior because I talk about strength and I don't talk about changing your physicality to be in a bikini contest in summer. That's not what that's not what I'm about. I'm about building strength at a cellular level, at a strong skeleton. So when we're 50, 60, 70, we have muscle mass, we have muscles around our joints, we have strong joints to move along in life and stay mobile for as long as we can. So I know that, it's almost like it's a silent global crisis. No one's talking about, everyone talks about gut health, and I get it because it's so important, but no one talks about bone health. And it's almost like it's the new, I'm trying to get it out there and get people to talk about it. But, strength training changes, there's this short burst of weight-bearing activity. When the force is exerted on the bone, the fluid changes across the bone cells and it releases chemicals to improve, like to regenerate bone growth, or bone cells to grow. So it's so important to just be pushing that, that force, and then pushing those muscles to a point where they fatigue. So it's like a brick wall. When they fatigue, it's almost like they come crashing down. That's what pain is, right? When you feel pain in your muscles. And then it rebuilds. The body is clever. It rebuilds itself stronger and more. It's almost like the fibers get stronger. So, from creating, I could go on and on and on about the benefits, but, pushing all those toxins, as we become quite inflammatory, with food. You would know this, Polly, but, when you're moving and you're pushing weight around, it moves all the toxins through the joints. It's important to keep moving, pushing that weight, and enabling new muscle, new bone cells to grow as we go into our later years.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise what happens is the bones literally become like a kind of aero bar, like it gets whole and brittle. And I think it's 1 in 3 women will get some kind of fracture after the age of 50 unless they do some sort of weight-bearing exercise.
Yeah. And I've heard of women sneezing and breaking a rib, in their 60s and 70s. So, what are we doing, ladies? We need to be, do what you love. I always say do what you love, because if you're a dancer, if you're a swimmer, if you're a Pilates junkie, keep doing it. But don't forget your 3 strong workouts every week just to build those bones, to get the toxins going for your brain. Your brain is a muscle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's instant.
It really is. And I do think what you said, so many people think, if I do weight training or I lift weights, I'm going to get really bulky muscle. You won't. You have to train really, really, really hard to do that in a certain way. This is just about keeping your muscles strong and, and I agree with you. I love that feeling of being strong. But it's also, the community, I think the community thing is so important, because the gym I go to, so I've got the most amazing trainer there who just believes in me more than I can ever believe in myself. Yeah. And actually, even last week, we were doing deadlifts with the barbell, with the weight, and I was doing, 55 kilograms, something, and it felt really heavy. And then the next time I came around to it, she had put on another 10, so it was 65. And I said, I don't think I can do that. And she went, yeah, you can. Of course you can. Yes, you can. And of course, I did. And I needed, in a way, I needed someone sometimes you need someone to believe in you, even when you don't think you can do it, because as you say, your body is so much stronger than you think. You know, it's capable of so much more than you think it really is. So.
I know. And I was, just to finish with this bone density, I was lucky enough that when I started my journey, someone said to me, you should get a DEXA scan, you know, so you know your body composition. And I did it. And how fantastic that a year and a half later, I redid it and I saw just what impact on my bones, like my bone density improved just in a year and a half. So I've got, and I can't remember the numbers, but, you know, it was significant.
Do you know, I think I would love to go and have a DEXA scan. So this is just, it scans your bone density, because I think when I was in the midst of my perimenopause, I was having, and actually one of the reasons why I went to that very little gym with Sergey was I was having terrible, terrible lower back issues. And I went and had a scan and they said a couple of my things were what do you call them? Menopausal moment, discs in my back.
Yeah, like
were crumbling away. So I was like, right, I've got to somehow get stronger. And I wonder if I went and had a DEXA scan, what I would have found, because I have definitely lost some height. I was always 5'9" and suddenly I seem to be 5'8", and I was like, oh, that's a worrying sign. I mean, luckily I do lots of exercise now and I do lots of weight bearing, so hopefully it's all okay. But I really do wonder, I wonder if my bones were not in a great place, because I was at the time before that doing a lot of running rather than strength. So I think it's just goes to show you've got to just really look after those bones. So
you've got to love those bones, Polly.
You do.
So, you know, like it's a new philosophy. It's new for some women. And yes, it's scary to think that you're picking up, you know, I always get, I don't think I can. And I say, you can, you know, I started with 2 kilo dumbbells. And now you don't want to know what I push around. It's like 17.5 kilos in each hand. But it's taken 5-6 years to build to that consistency of pushing weights around. But, you know, at 50, I feel incredible. And all my menopausal symptoms, as I said, I live and breathe strong formula. Whatever I preach, I do. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I don't have cake and I don't have refined carbs, but it's that sort of learning to do that, you know, 90% of the times I'm eating clean. And of course, 10%, it's a sustainable diet. My weight hasn't really shifted in 5 years. I don't even care about my weight anymore. It's just that I fit into my clothes nicely. I'm not fixated by that number anymore. And it's sustainable. Like I'll have a little bit of cake, and that's what I preach. It's like we will always indulge. It doesn't make sense to say you're never going to drink alcohol again or you're never going to have sugar again. So teaching those habits and that method of just really respecting your body and what you put in it 90% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's how you feel, isn't it? You're so right. It's getting rid of that diet mentality, of that number on the scale. It's really all about how you feel within yourself. And what I loved when you said, you know, when you get that feeling of feeling strong, it's addictive and you want to carry on doing it. So that's why I love exercise. It's because it's that feeling after I've done it as well. Yeah. I feel so good. And if I don't do it, that's when I start feeling crap about myself. And so it kind of spurs me on to carry on doing it. But it does take commitment and an element of discipline, which no one likes talking about because it's not very sexy, and it is what it is. It is what it is. I feel like I've got that discipline and that commitment within me, but I know, and this is obviously what I help a lot of women with, is to give them that accountability to turn up and do the things. What would you say, Mary? How does someone really cultivate that discipline and commitment?
I've thought about this because it's the game changer. I believe you have to do something you love, Polly. You can't make someone, drag and boat or play tennis when they just don't want to do it. I feel like when it comes to activity or working out, you've got to do what you love and then complement it with, like I say routine is the enemy for the body. You've got to change it up. You've got to throw in this and do that and mix it up, because if you just keep running or if you just keep doing one thing, the body's clever. It starts to, conserve energy and it just doesn't behave the way you want it to. So I feel like to find it, I think you need to find what you love and then just really enjoy that feeling, because I don't think there's anyone who says they feel horrific or horrendous after a workout. I'm on a high, and everyone, the girls, when we're all on strong formula, it's like, thank goodness I did this. I felt horrible this morning. I felt sluggish. I feel like I have clarity. It lifts your mood. It changes your body. I love good hurt. I don't know about you, Polly, but I love good hurt. I call it good hurt. When you've worked your muscles and you're tired at the end of the day. I love that feeling. I wish other women could feel that and embrace it rather than, just be so negative about it.
Yeah.
But it's the game changer. I don't know what it is. For me, it's results. And that feeling, that euphoric feeling when I'm walking, when I've just put my dumbbells down and I've done 40 minutes, and it's meditative too. I put the music on and I'm powering away in my living room and I feel good.
Yeah, it's a natural high. It's like your body creating those happy endorphins, and you
Dopamine,
feel
serotonin, noradrenaline.
Yeah,
it's direct impact. Like it's bang. There's nothing else like it. Unless you're taking opiates or something. There's nothing like it.
And the knock-on effects to sleep, to everything, particularly sleep. You sleep so much better. I know I sleep so much better when I've really had a good workout. Tell us about Strong Formula then. So it's got your 5 pillars. So the eating, it's not about dieting. So you said it's about learning to eat properly. So tell us how would you advise someone to eat?
Okay. So what we do, I keep it really simple. We have a nutrition coach. So a nutrition coach, a stress coach, and myself. I'm the fitness strong woman. So basically, 5 pillars: food, obviously workouts, sleep. So there's a 12-step sleep plan. So you go through the app and you learn the 12 protocols to better sleep. There's the mindset, which is all about my stories. I tell my stories and I teach women about work-life balance, self-prioritization, you name it, you can be it, you can see it, here I am. So all those lessons, and then breath work. We do a little bit of box breathing, just things, but different protocols for different, a stressful situation, use this. But in terms of food, which is a big deal, Polly, I keep it really simple. I have a compliant list and a non-compliant list. And all we do is we eat fresh vegetables, high-quality protein, nuts and seeds, a little bit of starch and grains, a little bit of dairy, but no sugar, right? And we try and do that for 6 weeks. However, I do let the girls, we have a point system. So you have 11 points, indulgence points. So you can use those however you want to, but you can indulge from the non-compliant list 11 times. But what that teaches, and of course I teach about protein. We talk about everything, how to balance a good plate, fats, carbs, and protein. We talk about all things, but it's drip fed to you in little bite-sized pieces because we're busy. So what I expect from women is every night they sit back with a cup of tea and they read the next post in the app. And then every week we submit our points, and our rate the plate. And, our nutrition coach will go through it and say, Polly, you did a great job. Or, just coach women in a positive way to stay on track. Mm-hmm. But what it does, after 6 weeks, you go through to round 2. So there's 2 plans, round 2. And most women are loving it and going through to round 2. What it teaches is just that 80-20 rule. That's all it does, about good choices and mindful eating. Yeah. So it's not a strict diet plan. We're not counting calories. It's not keto. It's teaching good habits that you can use today and in 10 years,
And that is the absolute key. There's no point doing a diet for a few weeks because you're never going to ever keep to it. It's about, this is now at midlife. It's about it's about a lifestyle. It's about the way we live. It's about living and taking time for ourselves. It's our time. It is our time to prioritize ourselves and eat well and move our bodies. And it's not for the short term.
And it's all tailored to the menopausal women. So we talk about menopause and food, movement and food through menopause, so it's all specific, the food, the movement to a menopausal woman.
So what are your thoughts, Mary, on hormones? So you say this is a sort of a natural approach. So in terms of HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and I don't know what it is actually for you in Australia. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I'm not a doctor, but, lots of women around me take HRT and their benefit, they're new, they feel fresh and like themselves. So all I can say is if it works for you, it's a personal choice. Do it. I can't say use one or not the other. I mean, women who aren't going through menopause could use my app. It's just healthy eating, moving, getting stronger, sleeping better. If you go to a doctor and talk about your menopausal symptoms, I did that recently with a new doctor. My doctor retired, so I was so happy to meet my new doctor, and she said, she didn't know what I did, by the way. So she was like, great to meet you. And, are you going through menopause? And I said, look, I'm 50, yes. And she's like, well, what I want you to do is eat like this and move like this. And I'm going, that is strong formula. So, so yes, it's the foundation for any woman over 40. But if you need HRT, you need HRT.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. So what I'm going to ask you, my last question, which is what I ask all my guests, is because this is called the Positive Perimenopause Podcast, can you think of one thing, a takeaway for the listeners, which they can implement, which will help them to have a more positive perimenopause?
Okay. All I can say is at 49 and a half, I have never felt better and stronger physically and mentally. So my go-to to get your physicality back, to get your strong back, is resistance training. I want you to just 3 times a week find a gym, grab my app, grab some weights, and just really commit to building a stronger body. That's one. Mentally, I have to say, and this goes across, I just want everyone to feel comfortable about something new. So embracing that fear, whatever it is, if it's a new job, if it's a new, I don't know, just anything that's outside your comfort zone. I know it's simple. It's a simple kind of concept, but it's hard to put yourself in a place of discomfort. But if you do it enough, if you do it enough in all aspects of life, you'll only grow, you'll only build muscle, you'll only eat better, you'll only meet new, better people or great people. You'll only prioritize yourself differently and value yourself. So, one, get strong. It's coming from strong coach Mary, who throws around kegs at 50. And two, please don't be scared to put yourself in a place of discomfort. Do it.
Yeah.
Don't think twice, just do it, whatever it is you want to do.
Yes, I like that one. But that second one, last week, actually, on the podcast, we had someone called Heather Ashley, and she's a Wim Hof method cold water therapy coach. And one of her tips was for everyone to try having a cup at the end of their shower, turn it down to cold, even for as long as you can. But she said ultimately 2 minutes would be amazing. And that, again, it's out of your comfort zone. It's uncomfortable. But if you can do it, we know it's good for the body, but also it's building up that resilience. So that's just like one quick thing you can do just to kind of build that discomfort, build that resilience, because then you can transfer that into other areas of your life. Or just do one of my business coach, actually, one thing she does, so she talks about this a lot, is like, getting yourself out of your comfort zone. She loves to sing, and she said she was in her car the other day and she pulled up and there was a really busy bus stop with loads of people at the bus stop. It was a nice day. She had the window open. So she had a great song on. And so she was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So she's like, I'm just going to carry on belting out the song at the top of my lungs and just feel into the discomfort of everyone laughing at me. And she did it.
Staring at her.
Yeah, she's like, sod it, I did it. And it just building that resilience. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mary, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for sharing your story. I am in no doubt that those listening will find it really inspirational, and hopefully, I know that, it will help others if they're struggling at the moment. And you're just such a fine example that you can turn your life around, whatever your starting point. It is absolutely possible. So thank you so much for coming and chatting to me again. And we will have to do this again sometime.
Yes, Polly, thank you for having me. And, I'm always here to answer questions, just messenger technology, just ask away.
Thank you. And so if anybody wants to find you, Mary, where can they get hold of you?
All right. So you go to www.strongformula.com. My website is full of blogs, great information, a link to my new app, and on Insta, the Strong Formula. So you can just see all the crazy things that I do in the gym and at home with my 2 dumbbells. And you'll also, have access to all great resources.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Polly.
Take care. I will put all of Mary's details into the show notes. And I really hope that if you're listening to this and if you're not feeling great, that it has inspired you to take some action, to maybe make that first step, to do something towards yourself. Because in Mary's case, it literally was just that one first step that she needed to set her off on her transformational journey. And I hope you're inspired to see that even if things are feeling hard, that it is possible to turn things around. And if you think someone you know might find this episode inspiring or useful, then please do feel free to share it. And if you want to share it on Instagram, then please do tag Mary and myself in it. We would absolutely love that, and we'll definitely repost it for you. And I just want to say a massive thank you for listening. Every week, it just amazes me that more and more people are listening to this podcast, and I really do appreciate it. And I thank you so much for your support and for the people who are sharing it and getting the word out there, because I know that it is helping women. So thank you so much. And obviously, if you do want to leave me a review over on Apple Podcasts, that would just be amazing, because it makes such a big difference in terms of the algorithm and how this podcast gets out there. So thank you. So that all that leaves me to say is have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will speak to you next time. Bye.